Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of All Around Hockey, the YouTube channel for the All Around Hockey fan. Today we're continuing on with our series, looking at all 32 NHL teams and previewing them for the upcoming season. The last video was on the Florida Panthers. This video is going to be on the Los Angeles Kings. This video is probably going to have a little bit more moves than the last video. Obviously, the Panthers didn't have much in cap space to work with, so there wasn't many moves that needed to be made. The Kings, maybe there's a move to be had here still, so we'll kind of look and see what we can come up with. I do have one trade in mind that might be pretty interesting to people, so I hope you guys like it. And I hope you guys are enjoying this series. I know I am. And we're going to continue on with this video now. So obviously we use our good friends Puckpedia here to look over the depth chart and then use PuckGM to kind of see if there's any moves we could make. And then Hockey Reference to go over all the stats from last season. So the Kings this season, going into this year, are going to be without their captain now. Anze Kopitar, of course, retired at season's end. So they are now officially without a captain. However, for how long we'll have to see. Probably Drew Doughty's right there to line up to take that captaincy. But it starts off with the big acquisition they got last year at the trade deadline and Artemi Panarin. They signed him to a new 2-year, $11 million contract. Adrian Kempe, could he take on that new number one center role? He was playing the wing. Now he can move over to center there. Alex Lafreniere there. Kevin Fiala, Quinton Byfield, Matt Zuccarello, who they brought in, was a sneaky good signing for them 1 year at $1 million. And it was a productive goal scorer. Trevor Moore, Eric Holla, there, another sneaky good pickup for them. Scott Lawton, who they brought in from the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they re-signed him to a new contract. Joel Armia, Alex Turcotte, another player who hasn't reached his potential yet, but could still get there. And then, of course, they brought Corey Perry back after his time. I think it was Tampa Bay. Now we look over at defense. Mikey Anderson and Drew Doughty is the number one defensive unit. Could that still be the case this year? I don't know yet. Brent Clark probably is the guy to take over now. He centers that second unit with Joel Edmondson, according to Puckpedia. Brian Dumoulin and Cody Ceci, they're in that third unit. Couple of interesting contracts there at the bottom end. And then, they have Eric Gustafson there as well, and Trevor Ward and Helenis there. Darcy Kempfer and Anton Forsberg's the goaltending tandem. This is last year the contract for Darcy Kempfer. Former Stanley Cup winning goaltender. And Anton Forsberg was really hot for the Kings there at the end of the year and ended up with a pretty solid season. So could he be somebody who maybe takes on a little bit more of a role this year for the team? We're going to go over to Hockey Reference, check out the numbers that they had last season. As you can see, they went 35, 27, and 20. Lots and lots of overtime losses, which is the reason that they finished fourth in the Pacific Division and the reason they made it into the playoffs. Of course, they got bounced out by the Colorado Avalanche. They were swept in the first round. Really wasn't much of a competition at the end of the day, although they did keep it a little somewhat competitive. I don't know if you can actually say that true or not, but they made it to the playoffs there at least, and their goals for was one of the worst in the league, 220 goals for to 238 goals against, which was one of the better in the league. And they have the new coach Peter Laviolette coming in as Jim Hiller and DJ Smith both are now behind the Toronto Maple Leafs coaching bench this upcoming year. They bring in Peter Laviolette as the new coach. Let's check out the stats from last year. Adrian Kempe led the team in points with 73 points, 36 goals, and 37 assists. Just really productive, top six forward. Quinton Byfield, 49 points for 24 goals, 25 assists. Again, you're kind of hoping for more from a former second overall pick. Alex Lafreniere there with 44 points, 21 goals, 23 assists. Brent Clark, 40 points, 8 goals, 32 assists in 82 games. You got to have a feeling he's going to really break out this year. That's somebody to really watch for if you are looking for somebody to kind of take over that number one defensive role. That's definitely going to be a Brant Clark and somebody who can definitely be a big name at the end of the season. Kevin Fiala, 18 goals, 22 assists. Obviously, he got hurt during the Olympics, and that really derailed their season. Anze Kopitar had a pretty good swan song season, 38 points, 12 goals, 26 assists. Trevor Moore, 32 points for 13 goals, 19 assists. Corey Perry, 28 points there. And then Artemi Panarin came in late and averaged over a point a game. So definitely, now that you have him for a full season, that could definitely help. Joel Armia there with 25 points and 67 games played. So not too bad of a season for them. You kind of look over here at the goaltending. They had a little bit of a trio there for a little bit where Phoenix Copley played a game. But Darcy Kemper ended with 50 games played, 19 wins, 14 losses. Ended with an 891 save percentage and a 278 goals against average. And then, like I said, Anton Forsberg really was that catalyst there and even took the playoff starts there. They had 16 wins, 12 losses, with a 909 save percentage and a 257 goals against average. Could he repeat that? We'll have to wait and see. But definitely somebody to keep an eye on for sure. So now we're going to go over here to Puck GM and kind of look at what we have working for us. Just a little bit under $2 million in cap space, so not a whole lot of cap space to work with here. Like I said, the Dumoulin contract and the Cody Ceci contracts are kind of derailing their cap space, but they have some decent draft capital moving forward. Obviously, they have the first, second, fourth, fifth, and sixth overall pick or sixth round picks this year. And then they have 2 second rounders next year with Tampa's second rounder there. So something we'll have to look at in terms of draft capital. Maybe that could help them make a move. Like we said, we kind of look at the rosters here a little bit. I would probably put Brent Clark as that number one role, give Drew Doughty a little bit less minutes, have him and Joel Edmondson as a pretty solid tandem there. And then Mikey Anderson and Brent Clark could be a really solid number one tandem. They're in the Pacific Division this year. Anaheim's having their cap struggles, but they still are pretty much, they still need Cutter Gauthier done at the time making of this video. He's still not signed. They got Leo Carlson back thanks to the Philadelphia Flyers offering him $18 million a season. The Sharks, they went pretty hog wild in free agency this year and gave a lot of big contracts, including to Macklin Celebrini, who got his big payday now. They're probably going to take that next step and be competitive this year. Calgary's in there. They're going to have their issues. Vancouver could have their issues again this year. So that Pacific Division could still be a little bit open. So you wonder if there is a trade here to be made. Could they go after a free agent like maybe a Patrick Laine to bring in a little bit more scoring depth? Maybe. Probably at the end of the day, I think Turcotte, I would give Turcotte third line minutes more than I would fourth line minutes. Just you got to see what you got in him at this point. He's 25 years old. You got to give him a little bit more time to see what he can do. But this is definitely becoming a boomer bust year for Alex Turcotte this year. And that makes a pretty decent fourth line with Armia, Lawton, and Perry. I think Artemi Panarin and Adrian Kempe, are we going to rely on Adrian Kempe to take that center role? That's the big question, and I think that's the big need that they're looking for right now. Obviously, they could just move Kempe over to center, have that figure out that whole, maybe Quentin Byfield takes over that number one center role, and he takes that jump that we've been waiting for. But right now, as of right now, Adrian Kempe is probably your number one center going into the season, unless there's a trade to be made. And so that's where I think things are going to get a little bit interesting. So bear with me here. So there's one trade I had in mind. It might be a little crazy. You guys have to let me know if it is or not. But we're going to go and make a trade with the Seattle Kraken here. And this stick with me because this is going to be a little bit long and confusing trade here. But definitely something that might be interesting. But Henry Bershowitz could definitely be in this trade. And we're going to put in Kevin Fiala, which again, Seattle's looking for a number one elite goal scoring winger. Kevin Fiala, I think, could fit that bill. He does have a little bit of a 10-team no trade list. So is Seattle on that? That could be on there, and then everything could be null and void at the end of the day. But also, maybe he wants to go there and be the number one wing option with like a Matty Beniers or something like that. Definitely could maybe entice him to play with a little bit more younger talent, especially now that Artemi Panarin's on the team. I don't know if that first line left wing role's there anymore for him, and he's probably somebody who wants to do that. And we're going to put Riker Evans in this trade. It'll make sense here in a little bit. And then we're going to put in Shane Wright in this trade. It gives you a little bit more center depth, but we're not going to take Shane Wright in here. Obviously, that clears a lot of cap space there. Now you're up to $6 million in cap space, which is pretty nice. But I think the big picture trade could definitely be happening here soon. Is we're going to go to Vancouver here. This is going to be a 3-team trade between the Seattle Kraken, the LA Kings, and the Vancouver Canucks. All 3 teams are in the same division, so definitely could get a little messy, but I think all 3 teams really benefit in this type of a trade. Now, the big person I think that Vancouver wants in a trade is Quinton Byfield in this type of a trade. But let me mention who we're going to get in this trade. We're going to take Brock Boeser, and we're going to go and get Elias Pettersson. And we're going to have Vancouver eat probably about 1.5, we'll say, in cap space. If we need to increase it, we'll increase it. But stick with me. This is a bigger trade here. Like I said, Shane Wright's going to be the main person that goes here. Obviously, he wants to go play in Vancouver. I think this gives them their automatically number 1 center back in return here. So that's going to be somebody they take. However, since you're taking on both Boeser and Pettersson's contract, they're going to either eat Cody Ceci's contract, which I don't think they'll do in this type of a trade, but I think they maybe eat Brian Dumoulin's contract, which is another reason we take Ryker Evans from Seattle here in this type of a trade to kind of make up for that. And then somebody who might be interesting to them, it might be like a Trevor Moore. He's had some decent years there with the Kings. Maybe he can go over to Vancouver. He doesn't have any trade protection. That could be another interesting name to go there in this type of a deal. And then at this point, you're kind of maybe looking at some prospects and picks going over in this type of a deal. You see, it leaves us about $1.5 million in cap space, which isn't a whole lot to work with. It's actually less than cap space, excuse me, I should say. But, maybe they could have some prospects in here. I have some in mind. Why am I not finding them? Agnes Booth is not the man I was thinking about. Go down here. Maybe like a Jimmy Lombardi could be part of this trade, or Francisco Pinelli. He's somebody who I think is a little bit more NHL ready to go. And then maybe you could incorporate a 3rd-round pick in this type of a deal, though I don't have a 3rd-round pick, but maybe you could get a 3rd and you could ask Vancouver to pitch in like a 4th-round pick or something like that in this type of a trade. So you're not really losing much in cap space. So this is going to be the big 3-team trade here that we're going to do. So we'll say yes to this. And as you can see, now we are over the cap structure, but we're still going to make another move here. We're going to go over to the Chicago Blackhawks, who could use some good scoring depth wingers, and we're going to give them Joel Armia in this trade. He's going to go over there to the Blackhawks, and we'll take on like a Ty Henry. Might be a pretty decent prospect to get back here, and like a 6th-round pick. Probably not getting much for Joel Armia at this point, but might be a decent pickup to have. And then now your cap space is a little bit more open. So this is a big 3-team trade, like we said here. Seattle would get Kevin Fiala, Henry Berkowitz, in this type of a deal. Maybe you could even have Vancouver throw in somebody else in that deal too to make it work for all sides. The Kings would get Brock Boeser, Elias Pettersson, and Ryker Evans. They would have Vancouver eat a little bit of that contract, and then now you can maybe go like a Pettersson. You can maybe move Byfield up here and have Adrian Kempe play the right side this year. Go with Lafreniere, Zuccarello, or maybe a Pettersson and Panarin might be a pretty decent combination together. And you could go a Boeser over here with Byfield, and then you can come back with Panarin and Alex Lafreniere or Matt Zuccarello. Might be a nice person to put there. And then Erik Haula and Alex Turcotte, along with Alex Lafreniere, could be a decent 3rd line. And then obviously you can see there's an opening there. Defense, we're just going to put Ryker Evans right in Brian Dumoulin's spot. And as you can see here too as well, there's a room for cap structure. So maybe we'll call up Andre Lee to be that 4th line guy and give you a little bit more protection there in the fourth unit. Now we have about 100,000 in cap space. I don't know. These are pretty interesting trades. You guys have to let me know if you like this trade or not. This is a pretty big deal at the end of the day. You bring in Elias Pettersson. You'd have him with Artemi Panarin, which would be a pretty decent pickup. Brock Boeser was somebody who was rumored to go to the Kings. I definitely think this maybe puts you a little bit more over the top in terms of trades there. Like I said, maybe Vancouver could throw in a prospect there to make it work a little bit more for Seattle's end. But I definitely think Kevin Fiala is definitely something they would like. And then Henry Berkowitz is definitely a defensive prospect they would like too, even though they get Riker Evans back. Maybe it's a pick, maybe it's another prospect for Vancouver. That's a lot to consider, but since we can't really do 3-team trades on here, this is the best we can really do. Shane Wright goes over there to the Kings. It's a huge deal. At the end of the day, let me know if you guys think that'd be something that happens. As far as what the Kings look like right now, I definitely think maybe there's a center need to be answered. I think Pettersson could solve that. Maybe even they just go Shane Wright and have it go that way too. That definitely could be a possibility too. So let me know. Would you guys trade Kevin Fiala in this type of a trade? It's a pretty big move, all be told, but you bring in a lot of good scoring depth with Boeser and Pettersson to shore them up there and shore up those top units. I definitely think this is a team that could maybe make another run for the playoffs and be a little bit better. But you guys have to let me know what you think. This is going to be an interesting year for the Kings. See how they bounce back. Now it's kind of entering a new era, as the Quentin Byfield and Brandt Clarke era. See if those guys can finally take those steps forward. Now that kind of Drew Doughty's kind of be a little bit pushed down to the side, I think. And then honestly, Kopitar obviously retired at the end of their Stanley Cup run era that the Kings had. So definitely going into a new era for this team, which it should be fun to watch. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Do you like that big 3-team trade? Do you not? What do you guys think the Kings need to make? Give me some moves that you would like here, and would like to hear from you guys. If you've been liking this content, please leave a like, comment, and share and subscribe to All Around Hockey, the YouTube channel for the All Around Hockey fan. Our next episode is going to be on the Minnesota Wild. I just made a short video on them recently, so it should be interesting, and I hope you guys watch. Until then, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.